and 6 years plus out since I graduated. So I remembered a lot of the things I was studying, but it was almost a memory that I had learned it at one point, and so it was relearning a lot of the things. And
You played poker professionally. That's really impressive, very interesting. And then you pivoted into electrical engineering.
if you, a lot of times people allow their tasks to fill the time allotted instead of taking the time allotted and determine what tasks to fill that up. So I started doing like an hour a day to study. Like to start my day, study 1 hour. And
How did you squeeze time out of your routine? That is one of the biggest questions that I get all the time. Good morning, EJ.
hey, Wasim, how are you?
Good. How's it going?
Not too bad.
So, EJ, thanks a lot for taking time out of your busy schedule and doing this interview.
Sure.
You recently passed the FE electrical and computer exam in the first attempt. You utilized my exam preparation resources, the on-demand course, the live training, I believe the study guide as well. And when I reached out to you about this interview and asked you whether you would be interested or not, I was pleasantly surprised that you actually went through a few of my previous success stories and you're like, Wasim, you know what? This is what my scenario is, right? This is my story, and this is what I like to share with the rest of the audience, the viewers, and potential students, people who are preparing for FE electrical and computer exam and pursuing their PE license. So I'd like you to give us an overview of what your exam preparation journey has been like when you graduated, the different twists and turns that your career has taken, and what was your motivation, what were the challenges that you overcame, and how you got it done.
Sure. So I graduated with a history degree back in 2008. I worked for a little while. I actually played poker for a little while. And then eventually I decided to go back to school and I wasn't sure what degree I was going to get. I thought about med school. I thought about becoming an engineer, thought about becoming an actuary. I decided I was just going to take some basic classes. So 2012, I enrolled in a joint engineering program, and I figured I could use that for any of those. And then I ended up graduating in 2017 with a double E. I've been working for a large electrical contractor ever since. Working on some big out of town projects, and currently working on a large 17-story hospital here in St. Louis. Most of my time, like I'm a project manager, so I need to know a little bit of technical details, but I'm more in like executing a plan than I am in developing like the technical side of it. So it's maybe 10 or 15% technical and 85-90% execution. And 6 years plus out since I had graduated, so I remembered a lot of the things I was studying, but it was almost a memory that I had learned it at one point, and so I was relearning a lot of the things, and it was somewhat like riding a bike. I had learned it previously, but there's no way I would have gone in cold and passed the test, so I had to kind of relearn it.
Right. So you started with a non-technical academic background, history major, and interestingly, you actually pursued poker professionally. Correct? You played poker professionally. That's really impressive. Very interesting. And then you pivoted into electrical engineering, and you completed your undergraduate in 2017 and got into project management role. Your day-to-day job is not necessarily very technical. You're actually strategizing and executing the non-technical aspects primarily, with 10 to 15% technical side of things. So what motivated you to pursue the PE license?
So about a year ago, I got a different license. It's called RCDD. It's a telecom license, and
Yeah, you mentioned that in the email. Yeah.
yeah, so it allows me to like stamp telecom drawings. I wouldn't say it's not as intense as the PE, but I got that last year, and I had some like lessons learned when I was doing that. That when I was going through it, it took me over a year to study for that, and it shouldn't have ever taken that long. And kind of the two things that I learned there that kind of transferred into the PE or FE and PE were, one, I just had to pick a date, and I kept pushing my date back on that a little bit. Found reasons to do it. The other one, it's kind of an obvious thing, but I kept trying to get all of my entire to-do list done. I'm like, I'm going to get everything done, and I'm going to focus just on that. Problem is, obviously, as you get things done, new tasks arise, and you can never, isolate just one single thing. So eventually, what I found out is that, you know, if you a lot of times people allow their tasks to fill the time allotted instead of taking the time allotted and determine what tasks to fill that up. So I took I started doing like an hour a day to study. Like, start my day, study 1 hour, and maybe something will come up. Maybe I won't. Some days will be better than others, but every day I'm going to move the ball forward just a little bit. And finally, once I took that approach, I was able to pass that test. And then, there's nobody in my organization who has both RCDD and PE. So I decided I wanted to try and go for that. It's kind of been a goal ever since I graduated. I just hadn't really taken the initiative to do it. And then once I got that one, I was kind of motivated. Let's roll right from that one into this one, and took a similar approach on this.
And when did your FE electrical exam prep journey truly start? Was it right after passing this exam, or did you thought about it for a little bit of time and then attempted to prepare it on your own using maybe some of the college textbooks and whatnot? So, how did your strategy for exam preparation evolve?
So I decided to do it pretty quickly after I had passed the other exam. I didn't start doing any preparation right away, but I had kind of made a decision. I waited a few months, and then um, I think I bought like the Black Friday deal of your program, and so it was probably 4 or 5 months had passed since I had passed it and when I started preparation.
Okay. And did the Black Friday deal just appear on in your inbox, or you might have basically signed up for my newsletter or something, or maybe on YouTube you saw something about it? How did how did it all happen? Like, how did you end up in my exam preparation program?
So in August, I started looking for an exam prep program. I came across yours, and I signed up for like a sample. And you had some sample courses on there. And I think I actually watched a few videos on matrices. I remember like I did well in linear algebra when I was in school. I'm like, oh, I don't remember this stuff very well, but I remember learning it. So I watched several videos. I'm like, oh, okay, I could learn that way, but I wasn't ready to start at that point. Then I got something in my inbox on Black Friday, and it just kind of hit me like, all right, now's the time. And it was just kind of like a gut feel when I saw it. I'm like, all right, I'm ready.
Right. And when you started your exam preparation journey, I remember you had mentioned that your work schedule is pretty demanding, right? Because as a PM, as a project manager, you're not only responsible for the work that you do, you're actually responsible for the work that the entire team does. You have to deliver on the promises while maintaining and respecting the budget and the schedule and the quality, right? So, with that hectic role where there are a lot of ambiguities on a day-to-day basis, maybe some firefighting, maybe some explanations that you have to provide to different stakeholders. How did you squeeze time out of your routine? That is one of the biggest questions that I get all the time, and as you can probably relate as a working professional, that arguably is the single biggest challenge that you might have encountered, in addition to learning the technical stuff and whatnot. But how did you manage your time, energy, and focus?
Yeah. So when we did like our live like one-on-one like onboarding, we talked about that a little bit. The project I'm currently managing is a 17-story hospital, and hospitals are complicated and take a lot of time. And I mentioned to you, I'm not sure this is a good time for this. And you said something that resonated to me, that there will never be a good time, and you just kind of have to make time and kind of make it work. And not that you want to like not take care of your duties at work, but sometimes you have to take care of yourself a little bit too. And so I kind of took that and I decided, all right, how could I make it work? And I created a schedule for myself. Every day I would get up at 5 o'clock, and I'd study from 5 to 6:30. Then I'd go to work until 5 or 6 o'clock. I'd come home, and the goal would be to work for like 90 minutes. But the real goal was just open the book. Because a lot of times it's easier to say, once you've started, it's easier to extend the time you're studying. Like if you just commit to 5 minutes, you'll find you do an hour and a half.
That's so true. That is so true.
What I tried to do was, yeah, do like 90 minutes in the morning, then do something in the evening just to kind of keep it going. That would be Monday through Thursday. Fridays, I tried to spend a little bit more time on it. You would give our weekly homework assignments for the live training, and I tried to do those on Fridays after I completed all of all the on demand, all of the study guide work, all that. Then I try and do the homeworks on Fridays and in prep for the Saturday and Sunday lectures. Um, did that reasonably well. Sometimes things come up on Fridays, and that would spill into Saturday and Sunday mornings ahead of the lectures. But that was generally my schedule, and I maintained it pretty well for a while. I'd say the first 5 weeks I was relatively perfect on it. That was the big five sections that cover half the exam. Weeks 6, 7, and 8 were easier, and I think I kind of took my foot off the pedal a little bit. I was like, man, this is it starts to wear on you a little bit. I'm working 50 hours or so a week, give or take, and then that was another 25-hour study session every weekend. Those are long weeks, and started to struggle a little bit with it a little bit. Burnout kind of kicked in a little bit, and but
Yeah, so consistency is the name of the game, and you correctly pointed out some students, when they're, let's say, at 50% mark, sometimes at 70% mark, sometimes at 90% mark. It's different for everyone, right? Because your stamina, your ability to focus for extended period of time, and also the personal and the professional circumstances that you are going through at any given point are different, right? What you have on your plate right now is probably very different from what you had on your plate 6 months ago, right? So it's really um, case specific. Now, the key is to manage your energy, time, and focus, right? Because when, again, as I said, some students start feeling the burnout at 50% point. Some students never feel the burnout because they're so used to, or maybe are already in touch with academics, or whatever that reason might be, an unfair advantage that they may have, right? But the key is to consciously recognize that this is not an easy exam for most of the folks, right? It does require conscious effort in order to create, protect, and effectively utilize your time, energy, and focus. You did amazingly well in terms of optimizing your schedule by waking up at 5 a.m., right? Studying through 6:30 in the morning. That is, I would believe, the best time, or the first 2 hours, 3 hours of the day are typically, at least for me, and seems like it was the case for you as well, when we are least distracted, right? And then you also made a point to actually circle back to your studying later in the day, if it was just even like opening the book. And I think in one of my YouTube videos, or maybe in the live classes, I probably mentioned that even if you just open the reference handbook for 15 minutes every single day, that will do wonders for you, right? Never take a day off. Never take a day off. This has been my advice to even students who sort of, especially during the summertime when they take vacation and whatnot. I tell my students that as as much as I'd like to support your initiative to sort of decompress, relax, take a break, since you are already in the exam prep mode, you should not take 100% break. So just open the reference handbook, even if you are sort of traveling and whatnot, and just eyeball some of the formulas and equations, because it will keep it relevant. So that's an amazing strategy. And how did you use the program? So you mentioned that you were trying to keep up with the homework assignments on the live classes. How do you utilize the on-demand content, the lectures, the quizzes, the mini exams, and the live sessions?
yeah. So I kind of had like a mental like schedule each week that Monday and Tuesday was for the Saturday session, Wednesday and Thursday was for the Sunday session, Friday was for homework, and then Saturday and Sunday were any spillover. So I'd always start with the on demand. I'd do on demand start to finish. Then I would try to do like the study guide questions at night. I found it easier to focus on them at night than in the morning. In the morning is a little bit easier to focus on the lecture, or like the on demand course. um, the once I had done all of that, that's when I would start the homework, and I would always make sure I got the homework done before the class. And if I was running late, something happened, then I would watch it on replay sometimes, and so I wanted to make sure that I had it done before it got discussed. So I didn't want to know the answer, the approach that people took. I wanted to try and solve it on my own and get there, and I found that to be effective.
Right. And in terms of your exam day experience, EJ, how did you manage time during the exam? What was the approach that you used there?
So I went through kind of start to finish. If I wasn't sure about the approach on the question or had any questions, I just flagged it. I might have answered it, or I would. Sometimes I answered it and flagged it. Sometimes I left it blank and flagged it. But I moved forward. Um, in my exam prep, I was a lot more prepared on the first half of the exam than the second half. Um, and when I was taking practice exams, I was getting upper 80s, lower 90s in the first half, and I was significantly lower on the second half. So that kind of mirrored my experience in the exam. Like I only flagged 3 or 4 in the first half. I think I was pretty confident when I finished the first half. Then with the second half, it was probably only 5 or 10 that I flagged, so I felt like I did pretty well in that as well. But there were certain ones like I don't remember this exactly, and just kind of moved on. And so, something I try and do when I take exams is if I don't know how to approach it immediately, I don't try to solve it because then I'm going to get frustrated. I'm going to spend a lot of time. So I would just flag it. I can come back to it, but I'm going to the next one and try and get all the low hanging fruit. And then I can try and work through the ones that might frustrate me a little bit.
Right. And that's a winning formula. That's basically what I recommend my students do. And if you, I mean, your exam day experience mirrored what you were seeing in the practice exams, right? And for most of the students, that's true. The first half tends to be for FE electrical a little bit easier, sometimes much more easier than the second half. And it's just the nature of the beast because the second half has a lot more concentration of electrical and computer focused specialized knowledge areas. That's one reason. That's my theory. The other reason, based on my personal observation, is that both during your exam preparation, right, you get to deal with these more convoluted sections at the tail end of your preparation, and even during the exam, when you're taking the exam, you've actually given 2.5 hours, maybe 2 hours, 40 minutes, of your real focus in the first half. Now you're basically using the leftover energy in your tank to deal with the second half, which is more difficult than the first one. And last but not the least is that the time constraint really kicks in, because for the first half you know that you can potentially spend a little bit more time. You at least have some level of hope that you'll be able to recover the time, but the clock is ticking down, right? It's the time bomb in the second half. So combination of all of these factors make the second half more challenging, but you got passing result, right? So you did well enough. And I think more than the end result, what I'd like the viewers and the potential candidates who are about to take the FE exam focus on is the effort that you put in, the consistency, right? The willingness, the perseverance, the grit. Because waking up at 5 a.m. to study, it's not, you're not going on a morning walk or a jog or, for a swim, or making yourself a nice cup of coffee and then spending time with, your pets or, family or friends. You're waking up to actually study something which everyone considers to be extremely difficult, right? So you're sacrificing your sleep on a long term basis. So you signed up for the program in Black Friday around the November timeline, end of November, right? And you got the result a few weeks ago. So that would be May, right? So give or take 5 to 6 months of focused effort. That's what it takes to get the job done. And while managing other aspects of your life, personal and professional. And now you're on to PE power. You were considering, PE power, PE electrical and electronics, and then you also, bounce off the idea of PE power, and then we discuss, and you are now working towards PE power exam preparation. So good things happen when you put your, um, make it a priority and give it everything that you've got. Anything you'd like to add to that, EJ?
Yeah, just something I thought about like every day as I was going through it is I don't have to do as well today as I did yesterday, but I need to be ahead of where I was yesterday. So if I'm 20% done, you know, I need to be 21% today. Just kind of keep moving it forward a little bit. I don't have to get across the finish line today, but I need to be closer. And that was kind of like my mantra as I was going through it. Just make sure I get a little bit closer. And because once you do that, you get close enough where you can kind of put in an extra push at the end to get across the finish line.
Exactly. So keep the ball moving, right? Don't stop. If you stop, then bad things can happen. I found that momentum is such a powerful force, right? In everything. Like sometimes when I don't feel like running, right, or getting on a treadmill, I just tell myself, I trick myself into it, right? I'm like, okay, it's just going to be a 5 minute walk. Next thing I know, I'm running a 5K, right? So these small things. So it's just that initial hurdle, and you made it very clear to yourself that come hell or high water, I'm just going to open the book, right? I'm going to just maybe watch a little bit of the lecture. I'm just going to maybe do one problem rather than the whole problem. So that's been a winning strategy, and I look forward to helping you with your P Power exam preparation. We've already discussed your game plan for P Power prep. You're working through the on-demand content, and hopefully by the end of the year, um, you know, you'll be back on my YouTube channel, and then we'll be discussing your P Power exam preparation success story.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks again for your time, EJ. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Wasim.
And if you want to learn more about preparation of FE Electrical and Computer exam and the P Power exam, then check out these playlists over here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon in the next video.